The world of AI generated videos is definitely heating up. We've covered a bunch of different companies that are doing this on the podcast, and there's a timeless classic. One of the oldest companies that has been doing this is Runway. Now, for a while, I'm not going to lie, I kind of talked down on Runway because there was all these really interesting new demos from Pika, and then, of course, OpenAI's Sora, and all of these really interesting platforms coming out where you could, create these amazing AI generated videos, and Runway felt like it was kind of falling into the past. Like it felt like the videos that I'd gone on there and tried to make were just like kind of like animated gifs. They were low quality. They didn't look realistic. I was just like, eh. And I kind of wondered because Runway had been around so long, they'd raised so much money, they had a solid team, like why they were kind of, I don't know, falling behind. Well, it seems like they have got their stuff together, and they have come out with a brand new model that is really, really impressive. And the thing I like about it is that it's available to use. Runway, yeah, it's like a launched product, so you can actually go and use what they have. This is, in comparison to when people are like, oh, OpenAI Sora is so much better than Runway. It's like, yeah, theoretically, sure, maybe, but like I don't have access, so like I can't verify that. It could be, a flaming piece of garbage for all I know, and you got to prompt it 100 times to get one good result. Um, so this is what I think is amazing about Runway. They're actually launched and live. Connor's been talking about this a lot on LinkedIn because, as you all know, Connor is a LinkedIn celebrity. You gotta follow him on LinkedIn if you're not already. But Connor, what have you been seeing with Runway, and break this down for
Yeah,
us?
Jaden, you are sort of the king of the video in my mind. You've been again sort of like when I was first listening to your AI chat podcast, which is one of the biggest, maybe the biggest in AI, I think. Actually, it was you were talking even back then, and this is early 2023, really about the fact that this is just going to be huge. It's coming. That we're all going to be able to create our own things. And look, you're not wrong, right? I mean, like this is what we're seeing with Runway. And I think, I think the number one thing that you say there is that Runway compares really favorably to Sora. I think you could argue that it looks a little better than Sora right now, but most importantly, it's available. So, I shelled out the $15 a month. Jaden, I don't know. I swear, how many $15 a month subscriptions do we all have now? It's insane. But so I have that now, and I've been testing Runway myself because we can't test Sora. And even when they sort of like do a side by side of Runway and Sora, I would say that I would probably give Runway the edge at the moment. But there's a couple of really cool things about it. So first of all, what Runway is actually trying to do, and I know Sora is trying to, OpenAI is trying to do it with Sora as well, but they are trying to build this kind of infrastructure that's essentially like a world building model. They want to have their video capabilities understanding the world and also the physics of the world. So folks like Jan LeCun, who's my boy over at NYU, where I am as well, although he is not as, I mean, even though he's obviously in this world, that meta, he's the one saying like, look, it's not that great, nothing's that great, all the blah blah blah. But like, he has been sharing a video that I've seen as well about this gymnast. I don't know if you've seen this, that I think Sora does, and it's just
Yeah.
like freaky nightmare fuel of like a sort of like a half four-legged gymnast or whatever spinning around, and making the point that these models don't understand the world and don't understand physics and don't understand the human body. And I don't think they're wrong. What Runway is really doing, and if you look at their website, the very first thing they say, if I recall, I don't have it in front of me, but it's we're trying to sort of like do a kind of a world building thing. And that is where I think that the next huge leap comes from. So right now, my favorite thing about Runway is exactly as you said. You can test it. So I've been testing it on some things like, hey, swim with dolphins around the lost city of Atlantis. And it does a really good job. It's not one that, I'm posting because it's not so phenomenal. But the speed at which it's changing is incredible. I don't know why Sora hasn't released theirs yet. I know that Google has, I think it's called VO, which is also pretty cool. That's pretty cool, although I don't think that's available for use yet either. But I think the biggest thing with Runway, to your point, is that it's amazing. Try picking winners here, folks. Like, good luck, because you're right. Runway was in the shadows. Everybody cast it off, just like everybody cast off Anthropic probably 3 months ago or something like that.
Yep.
And these models are working in the background and come steaming back. Now, of course, the giant OpenAI hasn't released Sora and has clearly been improving Sora. But Jane, you are sort of the king of applicability, and this is the AI Applied podcast. And I know you do another podcast called AI Hustle, which is one I listen to all the time. When you think about video, especially now that we can actually use it. Look, only at maybe 10-second clips or whatever it is, fine. But when you think about the application, either for creators or companies, given its limitations, and by the way, Toys R Us did a great commercial
Yeah.
using Sora. That was very cool. But again, you are the hustle guy. Like, how do you think about companies and individuals, creators using this?
Yeah, I think, this is the most important thing right now. It's kind of this we have the fun element. So you mentioned that video of the, gymnast. For anyone that wants to see it, I shared it on X. I reposted it on X, and it was actually made with
Okay.
Luma Labs. So perhaps Runway would do a better job. Perhaps other AI models would do a better job. I'm assuming they're all somewhat similar, but you're right. It was this nightmarish video. The tweet I reposted said gymnastics is the Turing test of video generation models because essentially, yeah, it's a gymnast, and as she does flips, her body just like contorts, and like the model just doesn't know what's going on, and it's like it's nightmare fuel, right? It reminds me of like the Will Smith video of him eating spaghetti
The original,
back
yeah.
in the day, where it was like all messed up, and then they're like, Will Smith eating spaghetti is the Turing test of videos, and eventually they kind of fixed that, so like these models could like get Will Smith eating spaghetti, and now it's more complicated things. Like, admittedly, gymnastics is kind of crazy because it's like a human body doing things that most of their training data is not showing people doing crazy flips and their body contorting in ways that, I mean, my body can't physically do that. So like you'd expect. Anyways, so I do think this is interesting. Um, it feels kind of like an edge case though, and so it feels like these AI models are getting okay at the base level things, and then the edge cases they'll slowly kind of like push out. And it's the
Right,
same way that you had like Mid Journey
right.
really mess up fingers for a long time. Now it can do fingers just fine. So eventually they go and kind of fix the edge cases. Now, how do you actually apply and use it? I think was a great question. Um, this is what we were moving towards. Right now, it's fun, novel. You go and play with it, and you're testing stuff out. You're not sharing it because it's not that phenomenal. Whatever. It's just kind of for fun. And we're, maybe sharing it with friends or whatever, or sharing this crazy gymnast nightmare on Twitter because it's cool. At the end of the day, where this all moves to, though, is the enterprise and how this is going to be used and applied in the enterprise. And the biggest, I think, is probably marketing communications departments using this in material that they create. I think there's a huge benefit, there's going to be a huge ability to essentially, yeah, like b-roll and video is cool, but I think the same way we're starting to see Mid Journey have the ability, or other AI tools have the ability to, like, you give it a picture of your product and it can put your product inside of an image. That's amazing. I think as soon as we can start doing that with video, that's huge benefit. As it stands today, I think it's good for b-roll. Like, I
Yeah,
use a
right.
software called Opus Pro, and um they have like an AI generated, so they edit your video. You put a whole hour long podcast. They give you like 10 1-minute clips from it, and they edit it with captions. They have a new AI generated feature where they embed like AI generated. They call it AI generated B roll. I mean, I don't blame them because there's no API to really do this with video. All it is it's like a Mid Journey, but it's probably like it's probably GPT-4 or whatever. So it's Dolly. It's probably like an AI generated Dolly image that they kind of have their own prompt to create, and then they have like this zoom effect on it,
They
or pan
scan
effect,
around
so
it.
it
Yeah,
feels like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
moving.
yeah.
But it's just an image, so I'm kind of like, like, it's not that good. But anyway, so you can see people are building products that essentially have this, and the second that OpenAI unveils a Sora API, Opus is going to immediately embed this into their software.
Right.
There's a lot of other companies that will embed it into their software. So I'm seeing people building for it already, and this is a really smart thing. It's like, even if the capability is not there, build for it, because the second it's there, you can just flip the
Yeah.
switch, and they're just changing Dolly for Sora, and all of a sudden now people are getting like AI generated video as their b-roll.
Well,
So I
yeah,
think there's going to be a lot of things like that.
yeah, and that's actually a really good point because it it's not sort of where people are going to be making their own feature length films or anything like that, right? But what it is, and the big improvement that I've seen now, because I have access to Runway, and everybody does, by the way. And again, I've been paying $15 a month for it, starting I think last week or something like that. And I've just been, again, just sort of like putting in prompts, messing around, all that kind of stuff. And what I've seen is that it doesn't. When I was using Runway ML last year, I mean, it was horrific. Like, I don't know, just bizarro, nightmarish stuff. And now, whether it's good or bad, it's real. And I mean,
Yeah.
look, it doesn't look actually real, but it looks really, really good. And the point is, I think sort of like once they have reduce that liability of producing something for something like Opus Clips or something, which is fantastic, and you can trust it to do. Because how long is a B-roll and an Opus clip going to be? 2 seconds, 3 seconds max, and you can trust that it's probably going to be maybe not the highest quality, but at least not King Kong with 5 heads or something like that coming out of it.
Yep.
That to me is where the use cases are. It's probably, you're right. It's probably going to be embedded in something that we're not even going to see. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, exactly, and I mean, like, it's gonna get embedded into all of the software that video editors already use. So when you start talking about all the Adobe products, it's going to be embedded into like Premiere. It's going to be Google is going to have ways that when you're editing a short on your iPhone, they're just going to have a way for you to embed like AI generated B-roll because they're doing their own AI generation tool. So it's going to be things like that. All the software where you normally get this kind of stuff, it's gonna and it's kind of interesting because what it does is it really I don't want to say like completely replaces like stock footage and photography
Right.
sites, but like it really kind of does. We're moving
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah.
And so you got to think of there's a bunch of like free open source or kind of open sourcey like Pexels and like
Yeah.
these other kind of sites that
Yeah.
let you people upload videos for free and anyone can use them for free. Those sites, I imagine eventually it's going to be like you're just gonna get really customized exactly what you want B-roll instead of having to go and try to find something that sort of works. And the biggest thing that I had an issue with in the past when I used to work in a marketing department was, and I did video editing in a marketing department, was they'd be like, hey, we want to make a commercial about X, Y, and Z, or we want to make like a promo about X, Y, and Z, or we want to make like an internal, like training for the staff like here's the footage of the guy giving the thing. It's really boring in an office. Make it cool. And so
Right.
I'm putting in B-roll. My biggest problem was like every B-roll shot that I was getting was like shot on a different type of camera by a different videographer at a different setting.
Interesting.
And it looks so like not it was like none of it matched. And so
Yeah.
normally when you have a professional shoot, you get like, one model and a videographer goes and, films that model in the same type of settings with the same type of lights and everything just looks like super uniform and it preferably in your own offices or whatever. Anyways, we'll get to a point with these AI video things where you're going to get away from this kind of choppy B-roll that none of it matches and it's just going to seem like everything was shot at the same time at the same place with the same people. That just increases the quality of the end production.
Yeah. I
So
think
this is where it'll all get.
I think that's right, and I'll just kind of close with that. That like it's what I've seen a lot is Midjourney and these other tools getting much better at that consistency thing. So, whether if you're trying to make a comic strip or something, you have to have consistency. It's that essential thing. So, I think you're right. I think that marketing departments and B-roll and everything will be able to use it when it gets more consistent. I'm excited. I love when new video stuff comes out just because Jaden gets super excited. Jaden starts texting me about like, "Oh, have you seen this? Have you seen this?" And then you have to follow him on his stuff on X when he's like reposting some of this stuff is amazing. But here on the AI podcast, listen, folks, AI Applied has been around for a little while. We have tons of subscribers. We have tons of downloads, everything. You guys have been incredibly kind. And also, I'll just say this, Jaden, last time I checked, we were at 93
Oh my gosh.
reviews. 93 ratings
I
and
was just
reviews.
pulling it up as you're speaking.
We are so close. We are so
94,
close.
Connor. We
90.
got one
Oh
more.
my gosh, 94.
Ah.
Folks, you guys are the best. Thank you so much. I'm just going to say, not going to take many of us to do this. Thank you for listening. You all have been just an incredibly supportive audience. We so appreciate you and have an amazing rest of your day.